Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wicked Encounters, where we explore just what goes bump in the night. I'm your host, Allie, and it's every horror fan's favorite time of year, October. In celebration of the spookiest month, I've compiled a list of movies that I think are worth sharing with you guys, and I'm calling it the 31 Days of Wicked Horror. We're on the 12th day of October now, but in case it's your first time checking in, I'll tell you how I've selected these movies that I believe are worthy enough for you to watch. First off, none of the movies are going to be older than 20 years, so we can add some newer movies to our must-watch list instead of continuing to repeat the same ones from 50 years ago. Hi, Predator. Secondly, I'll be providing the synopsis and plot of the movies for those who may not like surprises or just want to listen to know what the movies are about. There will be a slide letting you know when we're coming up on it, and I'll let you know where it's safe to click on to avoid spoilers. Also, while many of the movies are streamable, I'm not going to really provide that info on where you can watch them, because it varies based on where you live, and streaming services, they suck. Finally, I'm going to give you some reasons as to why the movie stands out, and why I think you'll like it. With that, 12th on our list is The Cabin in the Woods. The Cabin in the Woods is a 2012 science fiction comedy horror with a unique blend of horror, satire, and meta-commentary. It was directed by Drew Goddard and co-written by Goddard and Joss Whedon, with production being done by Mutant Enemy Productions, United Artists, and Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, the last two of which are uncredited. Don't know why. The plot follows a group of college students who retreat to a remote cabin in the woods, and that's all you're gonna get for this short synopsis. Anything more is spoilers. But if you're interested, don't worry. I'm going to go more in depth and go over the plot of the movie now, so if you'd like to skip, you'll know where to skip to in 3, 2, 1. The film begins with an unexpected scene. Two men, Sitterson and Hadley, are having a mundane conversation in a high-tech underground facility. This scene will set the tone for the film, indicating that what appears to be a typical horror movie is something much more complex. The story then shifts to a group of 5 college students preparing for a weekend trip to a remote cabin in the woods. The group includes Dana, the shy and studious final girl, Kurt, the stereotypical jock, Jules, the flirtatious blonde, Marty, the stoner, and Holden, the sensitive intellectual. They seem to fit the classic horror movie archetypes, but it's clear from their interactions that these roles don't completely define them. As the group travels to the cabin, they encounter strange and unsettling occurrences. They stop at a decrepit gas station where they meet Mordecai, a creepy, hostile attendant who ominously warns them about the cabin. Despite his warnings, they continue on their journey, arriving at the secluded cabin, which appears to be a run-down, stereotypical horror movie setting. Unbeknownst to the group, their every move is being monitored and manipulated by the technicians in the underground facility. Sitterson, Hadley, and their team are controlling the environment, using advanced technology to influence the students' behavior and emotions. The facility houses an array of nightmarish creatures, each representing a different horror movie trope. Once at the cabin, the group begins to explore, and they soon discover a basement filled with strange and ancient artifacts. Each artifact is linked to a specific monster or curse. As they unknowingly interact with these objects, they trigger the release of a family of undead zombie-like killers known as the Buckners. The Buckners, who are a backwoods redneck zombie family, begin to hunt the students. The technicians in the facility observe and manipulate the unfolding events, using pheromones and other psychological tactics to push the students into their retrospective horror movie roles. Kurt becomes the aggressive alpha male, Jules transforms into a more sexualized version of herself, and Dana assumes the role of the virginal final girl. Marty, the stoner, remains somewhat resistant to the manipulation due to his drug use, which makes him more perceptive of the oddities around them. As the Buckners attack, Jules is the first to die, gruesomely decapitated by the zombies. Kurt and Holden attempt to flee with Dana, but they find themselves trapped by the facility's hidden force field, which prevents them from leaving the area. Curtis tries to jump the ravine on a motorcycle, but crashes into the invisible barrier and falls to his death. Holden is killed shortly after by a Buckner while driving away in the camper. This leaves Dana and Marty as the last survivors. Marty, who has figured out that something strange is going on, finds a hidden elevator in the cabin. He and Dana use it to descend into the underground facility, where they discover the horrific truth. They are part of a ritual sacrifice that is meant to appease ancient godlike beings known as the Ancient Ones. The facility is part of a global network that performs similar rituals, each tailored to different cultures' horror tropes to ensure the survival of humanity. As Dana and Marty explore the facility, they come across a vast array of monstrous creatures held in glass cages, all of which would have been unleashed had the students chosen different artifacts in the cabin's basement. These include werewolves, ghosts, killer robots, and more. Realizing the full extent of the horror they are trapped in, they release the monsters, causing chaos and destruction within the facility. The technicians, including Sitterson and Hadley, are killed by the creatures they have controlled for so long. In the final confrontation, Dana and Marty are confronted by the facility's director, who explains that the ritual is essential to prevent the Ancient Ones from rising and destroying the world. The ritual requires the death of all but one of the group, with the final girl's survival being optional as long as she suffers. The director urges Dana to kill Marty to complete the ritual, but she hesitates. In the ensuing struggle, the director is killed by one of these released creatures, and Marty and Dana decide not to complete the ritual, opting to let the world end rather than sacrifice themselves. In the film's final moments, the ground shakes as the Ancient Ones begin to awaken, and a giant hand bursts through the facility, signaling the end of humanity. And with that, the film ends. Hey there, hi, how are you? To those who stayed, I hope you enjoyed what you heard enough to give it a watch. And for those who skipped, this movie subverts a lot of expectations, so I think you'll really enjoy it. But I bet you're wondering why it made it onto the list. What makes The Cabin in the Woods stand out? As we discussed earlier, The Cabin in the Woods has a meta-narrative and genre deconstruction to it. It's not just a horror film. It's a commentary on the horror genre itself. It deconstructs the tropes and cliches that define horror movies, such as the archetypal characters, the jock, the virgin, the stoner, and the predictable plot devices, an isolated cabin, the ancient curse, what have you. The film cleverly plays with audience expectations by presenting these familiar elements while simultaneously explaining their existence as part of a larger, more sinister plot. This meta-narrative elevates the film from a simple horror story to a critique of the genre, making it a unique viewing experience. Blend of horror and comedy. The film masterfully blends horror and comedy, often shifting between the two with ease. The scenes in the underground facility, where the technicians casually discuss the fate of the students as if it were just another day at the office, provide a darkly humorous contrast to the terrifying events happening in the cabin. This blend of tones keeps the audience engaged, and allows the film to be both frightening and entertaining, without losing its edge. Subversion of tropes. The Cabin in the Woods subverts many of the traditional horror tropes that audiences have come to expect. For example, the characters start as stereotypes, but are quickly revealed to be more complex than their initial roles suggest. The jock is actually intelligent and caring. The dumb blonde is shown to be thoughtful before her transformation, and the stoner is perceptive and resourceful. This subversion adds depth to the characters and keeps the audience guessing about their fates. Complex plot and world building. The film's plot is much more intricate than that of a typical horror movie. It introduces a global conspiracy involving multiple facilities around the world, each carrying out similar rituals tailored to different cultures. The existence of the Ancient Ones adds a layer of mythos to the story, raising the stakes from a simple fight for survival to the potential end of the world. This complex plot and detailed world building makes the film feel larger in scope than the average horror movie. Innovative use of monsters. The film features a vast array of monsters, each representing different horror subgenres and cultural fears. These creatures, which are stored in the facility's underground complex, range from traditional zombies and werewolves to more obscure entities like killer clowns and mermaids. The variety of monsters, and the idea that the characters' fates depend on which one they unknowingly choose, adds an element of unpredictability and creative horror to the film. Clever commentary on audience expectations. The Cabin in the Woods also serves as a commentary on the audience's role in the horror genre. The Ancient Ones, who demand the ritual sacrifices, can be seen as stand-ins for the horror audience, who expect certain tropes and outcomes from horror films. The film questions whether the genre's reliance on these conventions is necessary, or if it's time for a change. Surprising ending. The film's ending is both shocking and subversive. It challenges the traditional horror movie structure and leaves the audience with a sense of unease and contemplation. I can't tell you any more than that. That's too much spoilers, silly goose. Strong performances and direction. The cast delivers strong performances, particularly Franz Kranz as Marty, whose stoner character becomes an unlikely hero. The direction by Drew Goddard, combined with Joss Whedon's sharp writing, ensures that the film's tone, pacing, and humor are perfectly balanced. The attention to detail in the script and the seamless blending of different genres showcase the filmmaker's love and deep understanding of horror. The Cabin in the Woods stands out because it's more than just a horror movie. It's a film that deconstructs, critiques, and pays homage to the genre. Its clever writing, innovative plot, and ability to balance horror with humor make it a unique and memorable entry in the horror genre. The film's self-awareness and willingness to challenge conventions have earned it a place as a modern classic that appeals to both horror fans and those who enjoy a smart, genre-blending narrative. And that's all I have on The Cabin in the Woods. But don't worry, I have 19 more movies I'll be sharing with you. What do you think they could be? How do you feel about The Cabin in the Woods being on the list? Would it make it onto yours? Did you enjoy the interesting story and lore behind the movie's universe? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to discuss horror more in depth with you all, so feel free to join the Wicked Encounters Discord group. If you like what I do and want to support me, maybe consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the little bell icon so you know when I post. If you want to support me in other ways, maybe check out my Patreon. Speaking of, I'd like to give a great big thank you to my patrons, Nakala and Beefalump. You guys are probably the most mentioned patrons I've ever had because of this one-a-day schedule I have going on. And you know what? I still think you are the absolute best. Well, that's all I've got time for today. So remember, I'm Allie, this is Wicked Encounters, and I'll see you next time. Bye!